All right, cool. So we'll talk about obviously our mine at in Quebec called NISK, and our goal to make it the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. We'll be saying some forward-looking disclosure here. Nothing that we don't think is true, but as always, you should do your own due diligence on these things. I find when I invest, basically my best returns are when the macro and the micro align. And I sort of point to that slide here, which is where we talk about the commodities to equity ratio. We're down here at the bottom, but I believe there's ample evidence to suggest the commodity turn is happening now. And so the boat is coming in, their tide is coming in, and now it's really time to look at your commodity investments and select the right ones. I see the evidence particularly strong in the electrification area and the battery metals, and it's not just theoretical. I mean, we've seen in North America alone about $50 billion worth of construction commitments to build battery plants. So this is shovels are turning effectively. So this is money that's going in the ground, and they will be needing all sorts of materials like nickel and lithium and graphite, etc., cobalt, copper, you name it. So that's going to drive it. What's driving this commitment was government incentives and government changes of policy. So they're decarbonizing the world. That's the objective at this point in time. So, in the U.S., it's the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, and they're focused on supporting North American supply in many ways. I was chatting yesterday with the Chief of Staff of the Department of Energy of the United States, and I mean they've got billions and billions that they're going to be putting to work in subsidizing mining projects and infrastructure in the green space. So it's really awe-inspiring. And then in Canada, in our own country, the federal budget was just out in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and the Quebec budget just before it. And already we have amazing incentives. We're basically able to do 2-for-1 financings, which is incredible. We'll get into that in a second. We just finished one. But now the governments are saying that they'll provide up to 50%, up to 55% tax credits, which is effectively cash, to build and equip a mine. So if we're going to spend $400 million on our nickel mine, we can get 200 million plus of it from the governments. So that's mind-blowing. It should have rippled through stock prices for power nickel and many advanced stage projects in Quebec. Hasn't. The market sort of missed that, but that's a major checkered flag in my view. So that's the macro. Let's talk a bit about the micro, where number one thing we'll say is we believe we're 5 to 10 times near upside is about to happen. And the reason why that's going to happen is because the world is about to recognize that we're going to become a commercial nickel mine. And when you go from 0 to 1 in mining, it means you go from being an exploration stage to being commercial. And that's about to happen for power nickel. And that's because of our drilling results and ultimately the new 43-101, which will be out in July. We've been actively releasing drilling results pretty much every 4 to 6 weeks. I guess we've done in the last 3 weeks 2 results. Today's stupendous results, which I'll get into more later, but almost 8 meters of 1 ounce PGMs is a remarkable hole, and it was 5 kilometers from a core deposit. So it's just stunning, really. And what does this all mean? Well, it probably means we got a very big project here. It's an ultramafic deposit we're dealing with. Other ones like it in Canada's history were Lynn Lake at 22 million tons and Voisey's Bay at plus 50. So we fully believe we'll be in that category. That'll make us a multi-billion-dollar company, and our market value today is about 30. So obviously significant upside for our investors at the moment in time. Where are we at? Well, let's just refresh people's memories on that. We're in Quebec. We're just about the middle of the province, sort of south and east of James Bay, outside of a town called Nemaska. Quebec's done an amazing job, really, I think it's the world's best place to be looking for critical minerals. Why do I say that? Well, 3 big reasons. One, first, they've done a great job with infrastructure. So we're right off a major highway, 4 lanes. We could drive to our site. Right across the road is a major Hydro-Quebec substation. So we're going to have the greenest and cheapest hydroelectric power to power our nickel mine. We're just 8 kilometers outside of a town called Nemaska, which has got an airport and all sorts of facilities. So that's all good. Within that region, there's about 4 or 5 mines happening, being built or already built. So that's possible because Quebec government's done an amazing job of educating and working with our community partners, in this case, the Cree. And the Cree Nation understands how beneficial mining can be for them. And they're taking a constructive role in actively working with us on the project. All of our drill crews go and stay at a Cree resort lodge as they're drilling and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ways they're participating. So that's the government's done a great job in making the communities understand the benefits, and that's been certainly advantageous. There's community issues can be such a big deal in mining. Finally, probably most importantly, the financial incentives are nothing short of spectacular. So we just finished the financing at effectively 50 cents a share. Stock was about 28 cents or so when we announced it, and we closed the deal, and we say, well, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because of the way it works in Quebec is that you can have high-paying taxpayers in Quebec will buy the stock for 50 cents, and then they'll sell it back the next second to you for 25, the investor, and they'll have enough tax breaks and tax credits that the net benefit for them is they reduce their tax rates from 54% to 42%, so they're a winner. Obviously, the investor that puts his money at 25 has 50 cents working for him, so he's a winner. And the governments get money channeled into critical mineral investment, which is what they want. So everyone wins, but only Quebec is really doing this at this moment in time. So it's tremendously positive for Power Nickel and very positive and accretive for our shareholders. Every time we do a financing, it's accretive. So that's amazing, and we're able to ramp up exploration. So that's why we love Quebec. We opened at the front with the conversation about creating the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. The greening of the economy is on everyone's mind, and we have we believe not only a sort of moral objective to try and do this, but it's a financial objective. This is going to be a strategic competitive advantage for us to create the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. How do we do that? Well, we do simple things first. Right now, our carbon footprint is largely from our drilling. So we basically drill and we burn diesel when we're drilling. So we offset that. We used a company called Carbon X. They're a very fine young Canadian company that's pioneering some interesting work on carbon offsets. It's all Verra certified. We got the credits. We retired them. So we've done our part there. We're also working smarter with the ground. So we're doing a lot less disturbance in how we plan to explore and develop the project. We're using some cutting edge technology from Fleet Technologies. We'll talk about more of that later. But generally speaking, we'll disturb the ground less and find the ore bodies quicker. We're going to be using, obviously, Hydro-Quebec's great green power to power everything in the mine. We're already in advanced discussions with how the mine might look, and we're looking at probably the most environmentally efficient design that completely recycles the water in the air. So it's a really amazing sort of process. And then we're benefiting from the fact that it's an ultramafic deposit, and ultramafics naturally sequester CO2. So all these things sort of add up to our ability to be perhaps the greenest nickel mine in history. And I believe you'll get a premium for green nickel. So while this will cost us probably a little bit more, but if you plan it up front, it's not a big percentage increase. Yet we're going to make more than that by having our green nickel that will enable our clients to sort of say we've got the greenest nickel on the planet, help them marketing wise. That'll get us more dollars. So that's why we're doing it, in addition to doing the right thing. The environmental goodies wouldn't matter if there wasn't a mine. First and foremost, you got to have an ore body. Well, we started off with a great ore body, 3.1 million tons of gold, 1.6%. This was a historical resource. And obviously we actually drilled our first round of drilling about 18 months ago. 7 of the 8 holes hit. We had 18 to 27 meter sections of 1.5% nickel and better. So very solid start, and led us to believe that we could do much more. We actually did put out a 43-101 in August that was at 4 million tons at about 1.5%, 5 million tons at 960 nickel. We had to pull that in end of September because the metallurgical studies were more than 10 years old. And if I was an Ontario reporting issue or Quebec reporting issue, I wouldn't have had that issue. But BC has a rule with respect to that, so we didn't know that. Our QP didn't know that. We did pull it, and we're planning to do a new metallurgical study. It's actually well advanced, and we'll have that in the next month or so. XBS from Glencore is doing that for us, and we're not expecting that to be a problem. That'll be a plus for the ore body, and so that's. But we knew theoretically we started with probably 5 million tons, and we've drilled almost 13,000 meters or so since then, and the holes are sort of on screen in front of you. Some of the holes have been quite spectacular. We basically about 150 meters away from our nearest resource. We had 1.6% over 40 meters. That's a whopper. That's like a top 5 hole at nickel last year. Then we followed that up with another 90 meters from there, about 10 meters of almost 3% nickel EQ. And then just a couple of weeks back, about 16 meters of 1.5%, again, about 80 meters to the east. So again, all these things adding a ton of tonnage. This is sort of what the ore body looks like when you look at it from the side. It's like a river of nickel, and you can see it's like the Mississippi. It's got a lot of bends to it. So you can imagine if you're missing any of those bends, you're missing a ton of ore. But that's how it looks, and this is how the longitude looks. It's sort of like that's a 1 kilometer stretch. So really just working this right now, 1 kilometer of what we've mapped out is over a 5.5 kilometer long ultramafic sequence, and we'll talk more about how that is exciting in just a second. But you can see the widths are pretty healthy all the way through, and the grades as well. So this is a very prolific ore body. That's why we feel that when we give guidance to say that we're going to go in our 4311, we believe we'll go up to 8 to 10 million tons. When this comes out in Q3, that is definitely going to make this a commercial mine. So that somewhere in time between now and then, the market should realize that this thing is going to be commercial. And as we'll see in this next slide, this is just a start. So we've got a 45 square kilometer package, which we've just been, focused on 1 square kilometer on it right now, about 2%. And we've recently just shot a new EM all over this. And you'll see this is, the core body down here to the left. This is where the ore body has been quite drilled up. This is where we're getting to this, the tonnage. And you'll see 5 kilometers over here, we had this whopper wildcat target. We tested. It was an ultramafic. We wanted to sort of see what it was like out there. It was one of our last holes of the year. And lo and behold, it was just a short hole, 200 meters, because we really just wanted to intersect the ultramafic sequence and see if it was charged. And sure enough, it was charged. But wow, what a charge. So almost 8 meters of basically 1 ounce material of platinum, and mostly in palladium and gold, and 1.5% copper. So, the nickel wasn't there, but quite often in these things, that particular ore body is not in the massive sulfide. Quite likely the massive sulfide is further south. And we're going to be using some pretty interesting technology to find that. But before I leave this slide, we'll make out the point that this, obviously the grade is impressive, like super impressive. I mean, this is like extremely rare. This is what you find on massive discoveries like Voisey Bay and Norilsk. I mean, when you get these types of grades and you have like already what we're doing over here, it's super exciting. This 5 kilometer stretch, the airborne EM was, pretty interesting over it, very lit up. Nickel's a massive sulfide, so it charges up. It's very encouraging to have stepped out 5 kilometers. It's highly prospective, to say the least, that whole sequence could be enormous. So we're really stoked about that result. How do we find these other pods, the rest of this mineralization? How do we do it efficiently and cost effectively and environmentally friendly way? Well, one of the ways we're going to be doing it, in addition to using technologies like airborne EM and downhole EM and IP and gravity, there's a new technique out there called ambient noise tomography. And it's basically putting sound maps in the ground, comes back, the sound pulse goes down, sound map comes back, they correlate it to the hard data we've got, the drilling data, etc., the IP, the airborne EM, and that sort of allows them to get a visualization of your current core deposit, and it develops a signature. So that signature says, if sound waves looks like this, there's probably massive sulfide there. So then we look, below our current river nickel, maybe there's multiple stacks of river, often that happens. And then we'll look along this sequence, this 5.5 kilometer sequence, all the way up to our big PGM discovery, and see what we might find there. So that'll be the first areas of sort of expertise that we'll be sort of tapping into. This starts in 1st of June, and we'll be within a week. You're getting data and actually processable data. So we'll expect to be back drilling mid-July with new intel and fresh hot targets. So all that leads us to this slide, which I think is the money slide of the presentation. It's basically comparing us with other, what I would say the market deems as undeveloped, high-profile nickel sulfide deals around the world. They range in value from 140 million to 480 million US. We did the financing at 25 million US when it was 25 cents. So if the stock's 30 cents today, then now it's like 30 million US. Still a fraction, a fifth to a 20th of what we feel comparably we should be. So there's a long ways to go, and that's when I say there's 5 to 10x near upside. It's not because I'm mad; it's because the math is there. The market will eventually wake up. I just don't know when. It could be today. It could be on the next news release. It could be when the 43-101 comes out. But it's in my mind, it's a question of when, not if. So action plans, pretty simple. Keep on releasing drill results. We'll talk about the spin out in just a second. We'll release the airborne EM survey. We're just getting that now. We'll release the metallurgical study that's coming in Q2. We'll use the gravity seismic airborne EM, the ambient noise tomography, to identify the new targets. And we'll start initiating the new drill program in 15,000 meters in sort of Q3, Q4. We'll start to report on that, as quickly as we can, but probably sort of in early Q4. We'll update the 43-101. We hope to do that in early Q3. We hope to deliver a PEA or better sometime in probably by Q2 of 2024. So this thing is steaming forward, and it's a pretty exciting moment at the time. We talked about doing a spin out. The spin out is basically going to be our copper gold project in BC, and it's a pretty exciting project in of itself. You can see back here we're the yellow. North of us is Scotty Resources, a very fine, sort of lots of great 50-gram gold holes there, probably as many as there was in a Great Bear at the similar stage of existence. Strike point is just beneath us. This property's never been drilled. Half-ounce gold at surface at 3 different areas. We finally got permits, so we're ready to drill this summer. What would that come out at? Probably $10 to $15 million. So shareholders would get like a $3 to $4 million benefit as a kicker, and then that'll be the start. And then the Chile projects will be swapped over as well. So we'll do this through a fairness opinion. So whatever the market deems this worth, but probably in the $10 million range, it'll go over as well. And again, another 25% of that will get kicked out to our shareholders. That's the plan. So a last thing to speak on is the royalty. We have a fairly massive royalty in the company. Nobody really knows about it. We're in discussions to sell that. We expect would generate between 5 to 7 million US, probably in Q3. So again, while it's worth more in the short term, diluting ourselves for NISK is going to cost us more in the long term. So it's better to do this now. The management team is pretty lean, just myself and Jimena on the operating side. We've been using legends like GeoVector and Joe Campbell and Adam Finley and Eric Herbert and the crew to do God's work for us at NISK. And we have Apex in BC, very similarly. It's actually quite tax efficient for us to do it that way. Our board owns about 4% of the company stock. Been very supportive. The key shareholders are myself and my family. We've been the biggest shareholders in the last 2 financial rounds, so we've got major skin in the game. Critical elements, the Stern family, BT Capital, and Palace Capital all participated in this last round, and in the other than Critical, they were also participants in the last round. So each of the last 2 rounds, these key shareholders have taken, I think, about 70% of the round. So the guys that know the most are investing the most. So that got to give you confidence. That's pretty much a wrap. Let me just summarize it. Obviously, a major nickel sulfide discovery, probably with a very significant PGM kicker. I mean, we could have 1 million ounces of PGM in this thing. We're trading a massive discount to our peer group. Drill results are excellent and providing a really great base to grow. We got heavy news flow, obviously the assays, the airborne EM, the met studies, and more. We've got a fully funded program. We're cashed up. We won't need money until sometime next year. If anything happens, we're in conversations with some large multi-billion-dollar companies that want to do a feasibility study on us and pay for it. Something like that may happen. That'll be done through an equity investment, but it will be above these prices. We believe certainly we'll be using the 2-for-1 program as well. So we're focused on finding new pods. Obviously, we've got a great start today with the PGM result that we announced, and we think the spinoff is going to create some value for us as well. So just finishing and closing by saying that Quebec is an amazing spot to be, and this financing is good in terms of our exploration, but it's also good in building. So you think about us getting $200 million to help build this mine. it's mind-blowing. So anyway, great time to be looking at power nickel. I'm happy to take any questions at the moment.
Well, thank you very much for the great presentation, Terry. So first of all, congrats on the discovery hole. This is not something that happened on a daily basis for any company at all. The viewers that are not used to the commodities are a little less news, maybe used to copper and platinum, palladium, what you have, PGM and so on inside, might not understand how important that kind of hole is for the developing story of a company. But obviously, again, congrats for that. We see the markets picking up on the story. You guys, in the past few years, past few days, you went from 22 cents all the way, I think, to 26 or 28 today cents in Canada driving. So 30% increase, which is very nice to see. But obviously, there's more room to grow north of that price. Yeah, well, listen, it is
you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Well, one thing is sure is that the next dinner at the Lynch family will be a lot better than the previous one, I'm sure, with such a hole. Yeah. So especially if you bring that core to the dinner. Okay, so everyone, if you have questions, please post it right away. We do have 6 minutes left with Terry right now, so you have a chance to ask whatever question you want about it, that being nickel, copper, palladium, and so on and so forth. First of all, with all those great news, can you tell us how much money there is left right now in the account, and what is the capital raise looking for the next few months or so?
Yeah, we just raised 4.8 million, so we're stocked up with cash until well into 24. So yeah, we're not looking to hit the market well into 24, and by then we'll hope, maybe we'll have the PEA out. So there's a lot of road to cover between here and there, and lots of value to be created.
Perfect. Great to hear. Obviously, fully financed for a year time of work is never a bad thing at all. Okay. That being said, maybe if you could go back in your presentation, as possible, because you have this one chart that I really love. I think it was on your first page after the forward statement. The one that is saying where are we now in the commodity cycle? Which a lot of people, yeah, exactly. Which so the top left graph, commodities to equity ratio. We usually see those kinds of information before super cycle. As we see in your graph, the next rise will have such a long delay in between that we also dired out of a lot of commodities in between. A lot of nickel that has not been discovered, a lot of copper has not been discovered, a lot of all those commodities. You were touching earlier about how to position yourself into the commodity sector, and it's going to be quite a guided question. But when I look at a share structure like yours, and I start trying to check boxes, can you tell us a little more about what boxes would Power Nickel tick exactly for a guy that wants to come in at the early stage of both your company and of the commodity maybe boom that's upcoming?
Yeah, I think commodity-wise, well, I'm bullish on gold and silver, just as a hedge against the mismanagement of the world. I really like the battery metals sector, because I just think that that's just a massive once in a generational theme, and it's been underinvested, the whole space. So there's a huge demand, and especially we're lucky in that we're in North America, and localization is becoming the norm now. So you're for example, in the U.S., while it's right now it's 40%, within a few years it'll be 90%. So if you want to get a subsidy for your car and get $7,500 discount, you're going to have North American nickel. Well, where are you going to get it from? There's just not a lot of spots. So I think picking the right sector. So I think nickel is really one of the good ones. It hasn't had its run like lithium has, yet it's just as important, maybe more so. So I think that's key. And then I think from when I look, I like to find stuff that's already been done. So I look and say, like, I'm a bargain hunter. So right now, by any metric, we're an extreme bargain. You look at what we've got in the ground, the assays we've delivered on, the fact that we're cashed up, the fact that we're in Quebec, where we have easy access to cash, great infrastructure, pro-mining jurisdiction for approving these things. these are all the things that you check for when you're investing in mining. So, you know, I mean, you got a great commodity in a great area, you know, fully stocked up, and you're cheap. So, I mean, those are the boxes I'm looking for when I'm an investor.
Well, good to have a summary on that. Obviously, I think that a lot of people would agree with you on that. Now, how does the new discovery fit into your story? How different could it be as a deposit? We still have about a minute and a half to go.
Yeah.
Well, if you put at the same, if at the same time you could pull up back on the slide of the drill results, because I got a few questions about that. So about the putting back the drill results on the slides, and then discussing a bit about what's similar and what's different from what you have actually.
Okay, so what's exciting about this is, you know, this ultramafic sequence has been mapped all the way up there. So the fact that it's charged at the very end, and with such a monster charge, you know, at the top of the deposit, above the, you know, before it's not in the massive sulfides, is super exciting. So we'll have to learn more about that ore body. That could be a completely different animal up there, but it shows that the sequence has been charged. So highly likely that between the next 5 kilometers is going to be very prospective ground to work. And so that's, you've got, if you can get, like in our case, 8 to 10 million tons in 1 kilometer, what can you get in 5 kilometers? Well, who knows? But and obviously this is the best grade we've had. This is $1,600 rock. That's crazy stuff. So
that's absolutely exciting, Terry. That's all the time we have. And second of all, obviously your phone will surely be ringing like crazy.
It is.
So we don't want to stop you from answering to shareholders and other people that want to have more news and explanation. So first of all, thank you very much for participating in it. This was extremely interesting, as it doesn't happen every day that you have a press release that is that game-changing on the day of the IIF. So for us, it was a big thing to have you on board. So thank you again for that. And we'll be looking onward into the development of the story, and surely have you again on the next IIF.
Okay, great, guys. Thank you again. Cheers.
Thank you, Terry.